much a child of hell or Gehenna as you are. Woe to you, blind guides! You say, if anyone swears by the temple, it means nothing, but if anyone who swears by the gold of the temple is bound by that oath. You blind fools! Which is greater, the gold or the temple that makes the gold sacred? You also say, if anyone swears by the altar, it means nothing. But if anyone who swears by the gift on the altar is bound by that oath. You blind men! Which is greater, the gift or the altar that makes the gift sacred? Therefore, anyone who swears by the altar swears by it and everything on it. And anyone who swears by the temple swears by it and by the one who dwells in it. And anyone who swears by heaven swears by God's throne and by the one who sits on it. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you pretenders, hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guides, you strain out a gnat, but swallow a camel. So we're going to stop there for just a second. What are your thoughts so far? This is Jesus, and he's speaking to a crowd, but he's identifying the leaders of the Jewish people, teachers of the law and Pharisees. What are your thoughts? Yeah. Wow, is this really happening? He's, yeah, yeah. No, he's not, is he? He's not mincing words. He's not pausing and slowing down and trying to get the right word. What are some of the names or the descriptions he's given them up to this point? What's that? Yes, yes. What else? What are some of the names he's given them? Blind guides, hypocrites, pretenders, fools. Now, we're not necessarily going to get into this, but I'm very curious your thoughts on this because I think it helps us to put things into context. So in Matthew chapter 5, what does he tell us not to do? Don't call anybody a fool. But here he identifies the teachers of the law and the Pharisees as fools. Okay? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we obviously don't have time to go to Matthew chapter 5, but I would encourage you to go there and look at that context and why he would tell them not to call someone a fool. What is happening there? Because here he calls them fools. Now, that's the one word, because as I was reading it, it caught my attention. I don't know if the words are the same. Why would he call these guys here fools? Let's see, where is that? You blind men. They know the scriptures. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah.
Basically, it's an actor. They're acting like they know what they're doing, but they're not doing it.
Right.
They're not really it.
Right. Right. So let's walk through some of this stuff. And I don't know if you noticed, we only read about a third of this. In verse 37, he's going to call them whitewashed tombs. You look beautiful on the outside, but inside is what? Bones of the dead, and everything is unclean. In verse 33, he calls them what? Snakes, serpents, brood of vipers. Which I haven't read this in a while, and so that's why it kind of, I don't know, I guess surprised me is the word. Because oftentimes we attribute that phrase, brood of vipers, how will you escape being condemned to hell, to Jesus. And John says it in Mark as the Pharisees are coming to check him out. And then he identifies them as a brood of vipers and asks them, who told you to come here? But here he calls them snakes, brood of vipers. Now, what does a viper generally do? What is a viper? It's a snake. It's a what? It's a poisonous snake. It's venomous, right? And so if someone tells you you're going to go in a room with a bunch of vipers, or you're going to go into that room, they're not nice snakes. So both John the Baptist and Jesus are calling them a brood of vipers, a group of venomous snakes. How will you escape being condemned to hell, or Gehenna is the word there. So as we walk through this stuff, I don't know when the last time you read through this, but do you see Jesus this way, being this way with as he's teaching to the people? And when I ask you that, I'm not asking you what you're reading. I'm asking you the concept you have of Christ, of Jesus. How does this fit into that? He what?
Jesus came to save the lost.
He did. He did. He did. What, Bob? Yeah. Yeah.
Together, maybe this was later in his
Yeah.
ministry.
Yeah.
It wasn't trying
Yeah.
to keep things calm.
Right.
Because it wasn't his time.
Right.
I'm assuming this is later in his ministry when he's taking off the gloves. And
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you guys heard that, and I thought I had said that, but this is later on in his ministry. It's almost as if the hill to the cross, he's now hit the edge of that, and he's going to start walking up. So this is part of that walking up, where he's not worried about being not even nice, but he's not only doing that now, because now he needs them to get so worked up that they're going to ultimately put him on the cross. So no holding back. And if you read through this, all of the things that they do, he's telling them, not only are you not doing it right, you're snakes, you're fools, you're blind guides. In fact, you yourselves are sons of Gehenna, and you're taking people there as well. Now, I don't know why exactly this is the case. Apparently I haven't found the right sources. But, oftentimes in the New Testament, there's scribes, Pharisees, teachers of the law. There's different names given. And for whatever reason, here, it's just teachers of the law and the Pharisees. Sadducees aren't included in this. Scribes aren't included. Lawyers of the law are not included. Maybe lawyers and teachers are the same thing. But for whatever reason, it's only two groups of people. But the very thing that they're trying to do, I guess what I want you to notice is Jesus is telling them this rabbi from Nazareth who has no nobility, comes from nowhere, and yet he's telling them, you're doing it not only wrong, but you're ungodly with everything that you're doing. You guys are terrible. You are ungodly men. You look the part, but you're terrible people. Terrible, terrible people. You're blind guides. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because when you're with people, the way you treat them, you're biting them. You're poisoning the people of Israel. Absolutely. Also, notice verse 26. First, clean the, go up to verse 25. You clean the outside of the cup and the dish, but inside you are full of greed and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisees. First, clean the inside of the cup and the dish, and then the outside will also be clean. He's telling them they're a bunch of thugs. They're a bunch of thugs. They're incompetent. Which, again, if I'm wanting my sons back when they were at the house, I wouldn't say, do what this guy says, but don't do what he does. I would steer clear of him altogether. Don't have anything to do with this guy. He's not someone I want you to emulate at all. And yet he tells Israel, what they're saying is accurate. What they do is terrible. It's awful. Don't do what they do. So at the end of this, and we could go through a lot of this stuff, but to me it's pretty much, it's kind of just photocopying the main idea of what he says about them. So at the very end, verse 37, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who killed the prophets and stoned those sent to you, how often I've longed to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. Now, before we get to the last two verses, and I for fear of sounding like a broken record, this is a Jewish rabbi, a teacher, that again comes from nowhere. He's got no nobility behind him. He's comes from Nazareth, raised there. Now he's living in Capernaum. And yet he's telling these high official men that they're a bunch of thugs. Of course, our terminology, not theirs. And then he states, Jerusalem, Jerusalem. Now, who would be the imagery for Jerusalem? Who is he identifying there? Yeah, all the Jewish people, all of Israel. So what does he now tell Israel that they have done? In verse 37, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who did what? Killed the prophets, stoned those sent to you. So even the people that came to try and help you, you've killed them, you've stoned them. How often I have longed to gather you. Have you ever wondered how the apostles are responding to this? The 12 men, Judas is still with us. 12 men are standing there in the crowd listening to him. And it wasn't maybe a year before this, year and a half, whatever the case may be, where Jesus is, crowds are loving what he's saying. And he's very popular. He's got lots of people surrounding him. He's doing miracles. All this great stuff is happening. And now the closer you get to Jerusalem and the crucifixion, what does he start doing? And he starts taking massive swings at the Jewish leaders, like big swings. And again, as I state, when you get to Luke about 12 or 13, It's the same timing, but different stuff, different. And there's, in Luke 12-16, there's, I don't know, 4 or 5 or 6 parables that are unique to Luke. But all the parables that he states, at the end of all of them, it seemed to say, he says, or that Luke says, the Jewish leaders knew he was talking about them. It wasn't a secret. So when he gets to this point, how long I have longed to gather your children together. Yeah. No, sorry.
I believe what he did was intentional. I mean, we were
Yeah.
talking about a little bit last week, how he was more tactful.
Yes.
When he would heal people, he would tell them not to tell anybody. And now all of a sudden, basically he's doing the opposite, you know.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's more to stir the crowd because his time is coming.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it wasn't time.
Yeah.
And so he did things the way we did then because it wasn't time yet.
Yeah. And many times he would actually tell his apostles, we're not there yet. Just give it time. Well, how much time? Well, at some points it could be a year. Just let things sit, let them chill. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, and I don't know if this is fully accurate, but this was explained to me a while back, and it makes sense that there were times when he would tell them to go tell people, and then there were times he would tell them, don't tell anybody. And it seems like when he said go tell people, he was in a Gentile area. So it didn't matter. It wasn't going to foment anything. But when he was in a Jewish area, he wanted to be able to go to places and them not be ready for him, ready to drive him out, because if they knew, they would possibly bring the Jewish leaders and it would upset the time scale. So that's a possibility as to why in some cases he said tell, in other cases he said don't. And in fact, in some cases, he would say don't tell anybody, but go to the priest and get clean. Let the priest look over you, and that way you can be re-engaged with people again. So as we get to verse 38, any other thoughts or comments about any of this? I mean, we for me personally, all of it is kind of a photocopy of the same idea. He just hits different parts of it. So any other thoughts about anything that you specifically read? All of this to me, he's just telling me you guys are thugs, whitewashed tombs, you're dirty, you're, I don't know, what's the word? You have no integrity, you have no character. You just look the part, but you're not the part at all. Yeah.
I look at the Pharisees and I can be critical of them, but then I have to look at myself and say, do I do the same thing?
Yeah.
I think each one of us needs to look at that and make sure that we're not only preaching or talking the talk, but we're walking the walk.
Yeah. And I think too, and we've talked about this a couple of months back, that I think we need to be very careful that not all Pharisees, I would think, were like this. I mean, you've got Nicodemus in, John 3? And we can question his motives, but all we know is he went and he had a conversation with Jesus. So, it's almost as if saying, pick any group in America and saying the same thing about all of them. And not all of them are like that. Yeah.
We are human, we are not perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people think that you're a Christian, you shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
I mean, we have faults just like anybody else.
Yeah.
We're trying to overcome, hopefully.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's, as we just discussed, it's pretty easy for us to understand and apply the concept that we shouldn't be hypocrites. We shouldn't be as the ones that Jesus is calling out here. What should we glean from how we should emulate Jesus's behavior and technique and how he's teaching? So we talked about his early life. When he started his ministry and the healing and all that, and now he's getting more aggressive. Is that something we should do? And
Yeah, Ty.
I'm gonna answer you with a confusing answer. Because it's.
But that's Ty.
It was confusing when Jesus said it. Be as wise as foxes, as gentle as doves.
No, I think that is a, ever since I've heard that, and in fact, when he sent his, and to me, this does answer your question. I'm really glad you brought that up. When he sends his apostles out in Matthew 10, he tells them to be cunning, to be shrewd. And the Greek word there, and this interests me because I have a massive interest in what happens in Genesis 3. It's just always been very curious to me. So if there's such a thing as the Greek equivalent in Hebrew, the way it describes the serpent that was at the tree, he was more what? Cunning than any of the other animals. Well, Jesus uses the same kind of equivalent term in Matthew to describe when he says, you go out there and you be cunning, be shrewd, be, what was the phrase again? Smart and wise. So whenever you get into these situations, is Jesus doing this because he was in a bad mood? Or because he was angry with them? Was this a shrewd move? Why did he do this other than being able to finally lay out how these Pharisees had been for, probably a couple generations? Yeah.
Because at this point, the point of his orderous teaching was to foment them
Yes.
to fulfill the prophecy and kill them.
Yes. Yes. That's what he's doing. And every time he would say, it's not my time yet, it was, look, if I heal you and then you go into the Jewish areas and you tell everybody what I did, then they're going to hear about it and they're going to come and they're going to get fomented before I need them to. I'm not ready yet. At least that's my understanding. It seems to make sense to me. Any other thoughts? That's a great question, by the way. Yeah.
Well, Jesus asked, he was speaking with authority, which we are given authority by the Bible, but I'm not sure how I would like to say this, but we don't have the same authority that Jesus had. We're constantly learning. And so, to me, that kind of gives me an idea of direction, how I want to approach people, because I'm not Jesus. So for me to strike out in anger at someone, I really don't feel like I have the authority to do that. I have the authority to say what's wrong is wrong according to the Bible. But personally, I don't feel like I have the authority to strike out at someone like that. Anyway.
Okay. So really interesting comment, because early on in his teaching, was there an effort, can you think of, to try and swing or differently navigate the Jewish leadership? Okay.
Basically, the same thing raising my kids. I would approach gently, if you will.
Yeah.
This is what you need to do, and then if it doesn't happen, then you kind of, just to use a metaphor, drop the hammer.
Right. Yeah.
So I think we have to consider who Jesus was actually talking to when he castigated the Pharisees this way.
Yeah.
Because he knew they weren't going to change.
Right.
So I think that he was really pointing out to the people that these were not good leaders.
Right.
He knew the leadership wasn't going to change what they were going to do.
Right.
But he didn't want these people following them. You make the road to hell just as paved, what's that phrase?
Yeah.
Bring other people along with you.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. When you, the people that you're bringing with you, you're making twice as much the sons of hell as yourself. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, with Carol's comment, which I think is very helpful, because Jesus' intention here was not to shift their thinking. It was not in any way to broadly state it to convert them. He knew who they were, he knew where they were, and he knew at whatever level, and I think that's a really interesting conversation, at whatever level that he was about to go to the cross. And they were the ones that was going to be the marionette, if you will, to cause that to happen. Our intention from the Great Commission is to do what? Seek and save the lost, to convert folks. Now, are there moments whenever we are in a place of, can this be done in love? No, this, what he does here. Can this be done in love? And I'm not saying to you that I have the answer to that. And love is such a broad thing. Can this be done with kindness? Can this be done with mercy? Can this be done with a solid heart of integrity? And I'm asking you because I'm not going to give you the answer, because whatever you think. I know I have a hard time doing this at all. Because to me, the other side of this, I mean, even the way he started this, you got conflict. And I don't do well with conflict.
He's been teaching for several years.
Yes.
And instead of the teachers of the law and the Pharisees and the ones that are supposed to be honoring God, coming around and seeing who's there, what's going on that they're not doing, he is finally, he needs the people to understand. And he's giving them a roadmap too, if you think about it. He's telling them what they're doing, what the Pharisees and the teachers of the law are doing, that is not like God's kingdom.
Right, at all.
And he's,
Yeah.
It's not about appearance, it's about what's in your heart, and about serving instead of being puffed up.
Yeah.
And he's showing them how these men, even though they know the law, they're causing people to be closed away from God instead of with Him.
Yeah.
I grew up in churches that were a lot like this,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that God pursued me and
Yeah.
helped me to see
Yeah.
what He really means.
Yeah.
And God was pursuing them,
Yeah.
and He was pursuing the people as well.
Yeah.
So
Still.
it was
Still.
it was kind of a last chance to really stir up the teachers and to teach the people.
Yeah. So with that comment in mind, I want you guys also to notice, in terms of context, that even up to chapter 23, in chapter 21, where we started, as he comes in on the donkey, so many of his teachings were, I don't know the word is kind, but he was still kind of, beating around the bush, and not in a passive way. And so he's kind of walking around the bush with these parables. And finally, man, he gets to chapter 23, and he just hits him directly. Yeah, Teresa.
Like we talked about before, different people respond differently to different things, just like raising kids. There was a lady in the congregation years ago that had 4 children, and she said her son, one of her sons at the time, told kids outside, I can't do this because my mommy will spank me very hard. And she said, and that's what it took to get through to him.
Yes.
But
Yes.
her first daughter, all she had to do was look at her cross-eyed,
Yeah.
and that was enough.
Yeah.
So I thought, Jesus and God know what it's going to take and when
Yes.
for each one of us.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's more severe than other times.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, very true. Very true. So again, with that in mind, he kind of parables it up. And I guess this is, again, it's just interesting to me. He parables it up because it's not as if, he's walking around for a couple of days or a couple of weeks and then slams them with this. He's working his way in, doing parables, getting them the visuals. And then chapter 23, verse 1, then Jesus said to the crowds and his disciples, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit at Moses' seat. So be careful to do what they tell you, but do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. And then, just bam, 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 all the way down. No more parables. He hits almost everything that has anything to do with them, and he nails it to the wall, and he hurts them. What we're going to get into next week, and I guess I'd honestly never noticed this, getting into chapter 24, 38 and 39, look at your house. It's left desolate to you. What is the house of the Jews? Jerusalem. The temple. The temple. For I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Do you remember what was said when he came into Jerusalem as the king? Save us, save us. Verse 21, verse 9. Honestly, I'm telling you, this just now popped in my head. The crowds that went ahead of him, and they shouted, Hosanna to the Son of David. And then you remember what they said? Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And then Jesus ends this part of it, the very end of chapter 23, before chapter 24 hits. Then you will say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. But how is he going to come in the name of the Lord? Chapter 24, I believe he's going to come 35 years later, and he's going to destroy Jerusalem. And how is he going to do it? I know we're done, but think about this. Sure, this is so cool. Think about this. How is Jesus going to come to Jerusalem in the name of the Lord? Yeah.
They made them sons of when they crossed the line, the sons of perdition.
Yes. That's a great question. Yeah, I'll get into that. Yeah, thank you for that. So how does he make them? Right? How does he come in the name of the Lord? How does Jerusalem get destroyed? So the name of the Lord, Jesus comes in the name of the Lord through, if I'm accurate on this, through Rome, the very people that have been chaining them for who knows how long. God's going to use them to destroy Jerusalem. Oh. Yeah, the very people who crucified him. So, yeah, we'll continue next week. Yeah.